it sounds like that? Because it's a manual. Did I mention this has a manual? I think I did. All right, so the GR Supra for 2023, I think the big news for this year is the fact that it comes with a manual. Manual transmission, yes. So this is the car that Toyota built with BMW, and under the hood, a BMW inline 6 with a turbocharger, 382 horsepower, looks just like a BMW Z4 under the hood except for the Toyota emblem on the engine cover. But when you step away and look at the car, it does not look like a BMW. This is all Toyota Supra, a lot of heritage design cues, and of course styling that is absolutely unique. And it does say Supra, I think, when you look at it. This nice double bubble roof, big ducktail spoiler at the back, big exhaust pipes, a nice air splitter lower fascia at the rear, and when you look at the front, it's got a face that, well, some might say only a mother could love, but this is a car that certainly stands out going down the street wherever you go. Wheels on this, 19x9 up front, 19x10 at the rear. Behind those front wheels are 13.7-inch disc and a nice Brembo caliper to go with that. You know, at the end of the day, I think this is a car that's so much better looking than the BMW Z4, which to me looks like something somebody tripped some acid and threw a bunch of lines all over a sketch pad and say, okay, build it. This, even though it's not necessarily my bag styling wise, at least it looks like there was some thought put into it. There's some DNA here that does tie back to the previous Toyota Supra, I think. The interior of the Supra is a place that's well put together, and when you look around, it has a lot of Toyota design DNA and some of the soft stitch on the dash and the vents and things like that. It's got a unique steering wheel from the Z4, but if you also look carefully, you'll see a lot of BMW switchgear around, and that's not a bad thing. It's good quality stuff. The dash is pretty simple though. It's got a digital instrument cluster in front of me with a center dial design, and you can customize the information sets there. With the manual transmission, you get a shift indicator right in the middle of that instrument cluster. There's no shift paddles because it's not an automatic. Oh shucks, they're missing. But sitting here, a few differences from the automatic Supra. This console is redesigned to accommodate the extra wide shifter. The automatic sits in a much smaller footprint. They had to make it a little bit wider. They had to move the control for the infotainment system over to the side, and it sort of protrudes out into your passenger space just a little bit, but it's very well done. There's a slot right up here to put your phone with a wireless charger, and it's got a cover that holds your phone in place so it doesn't go flying around when you're flying around. I think that is really a big bonus. Genuine carbon fiber on that console. Cup holders are back here. They're just to the right of where the driver puts the elbow, which is kind of cool. So you can have things back here. Now, if you have a passenger also, they're just going to have to not be laying their elbow here, but you're going to be using the shifter. Now, sitting here as a driver, the clutch pedal, the brake pedal, and the gas pedal are all very well arranged. The clutch pedal, I think, has a pretty long throw, but that comes in handy for when you're actually shifting and you're maneuvering the clutch, especially off of a launch. There's a lot of space there to really fine-tune your clutch engagement, and the brake pedal and the gas pedal are positioned perfectly for heeling and towing it if you're out there on a track or if you're doing it on the street or on a back road someplace. Usually not as much need for that there, but if you're out on a track, and you do know how to heel and tow, these pedals are perfectly arranged for that. The shifter has a great feel to it. It's not the shortest throw, but it's very precise, as I'd expect from something that came out of a BMW factory. And even though this is the only vehicle that this transmission's available in terms of you can't get this in the Z4, not yet, the shift knob looks remarkably like shift knobs I've seen in some of my past BMWs. Just saying. It does say GR on it, and it just works really well. These seats, leather seats in the premium trim grade. They're very comfortable. They're not overly bolstered. They didn't go over the line and try to make them too crazy. They're comfortable enough to sit in them all day, which I have done. These are power adjustable, and then they are also heated, which has been nice as it's wintry here in Phoenix. It gets down to like 60 degrees. It's horrible. The rear cargo hatch is actually a pretty roomy place since we're not making space for a back seat, and I like what they've done with the bulkhead right behind the seats. They've actually mounted your big speakers up on top of there so they're out of the way and they're good for sound in that spot. And down below that, you've got the cargo area, and the way it's designed, you're not going to have things sliding over on top of those speakers very often. So they've given it some thought, and when you open the hatch, there's a nice cover that keeps everything private back there. I really like this interior. I think Toyota's done a good job here. I like the fact that we've got some BMW-isms here and there, but it's still a Toyota when you really look at some of the design details. This interior gets 5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system is, well, it's BMW. And that's not always a good thing, but Toyota's infotainment systems lately haven't been that great either. But essentially what this is an 8.8-inch screen with a Toyota-ized version of iDrive, or what BMW calls iDrive these days. It's got a puck down on the center console for controlling most things. It's a touch screen during driving. It's not like the Mazda system that stops you from being able to use that as a touch screen. And there are some basic controls on the steering wheel. Unlike the Mazda system, which is like playing Pong, this is actually more sophisticated. It has better menus. The audio system here, 12 speakers, JBL, 500 watts. It's got a great sound. And when it comes to features, we have the expected backup camera. We have Sirius XM radio, wireless, Apple CarPlay. But guess what? There's no Android Auto, not even wired. It just isn't here. Why? Because it's BMW. It's just what it is. So this is a system that using it, there is a learning curve to it. It is a relatively small screen for all of the feature content that they're packing into it, but once you set it and forget it, you're good to go. This infotainment system gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, now it's finally time to take a drive in this thing. And of course, the first thing we've got to talk about is what's under the hood. 382 horsepower, 368 pound-feet of torque, and of course a 6-speed manual transmission. If you're at all versed in cars, you know there's nothing smoother and velvetier than a BMW inline 6. And so that gets us to the first question I always have to ask is, how does it go? So we're out in the middle of nowhere. We're going to come to a complete stop. I'm going to rev this up to about 3,500 RPM and go. Woo! Little bit of wheel hop. And 60. Woo! And listen to that. Oh my God, this sounds so good. I don't know. I could do that all day. I should do it all day. I've been doing it all day, to be honest with you. It's got an upshift light. So this is an engine that's just great. It's got rev matching that's default, but you can turn it off in the individual and the sport modes. Oh, listen to that. It's just so velvety and smooth. And that's 100 miles an hour without even thinking about it. Woo! I love this. Now, there are a few things that have come with the manual transmission here. Less fuel economy. It's about 4 mpg less than the standard with the automatic. 19 city, 27 highway, 21 combined. In my week with it though, in spite of all my crazy driving, I've still managed about 20, which, you know, at the end of the day, I almost didn't really care about that for the sake of our review. It does have auto start stop, yuck, but what are you gonna do? Everybody's got it. And you can turn it off. You can turn it off. So this is a powertrain that I absolutely I love. It's like that monkey with the cocaine button. I can keep pressing it all day. It gets 5 out of 5 stars. Makes me crazy. When it comes to the chassis, this is a car that, because it shares all of its engineering and DNA with the BMW Z4, it's essentially a BMW as you drive it down the road. That is a good thing. It's got the dual ball joint front strut suspension, multi-link rear suspension, the big brakes we saw on the outside, And here in the 2023 manual I'm driving, this has the adaptive variable suspension. That gives us a car that is sharp. It's got great reflexes. It has great communication between the driver and the road. Steering feel is just amazing. It's weighted just right. And of course you can change all that up with the drive modes. And that gets to the adaptive dampers, which can also adjust on the fly, and you can also dial those through the drive modes. I think the decision that Toyota made in working with BMW on this chassis was really brilliant. This is a chassis and a driving experience that's just flat out amazing. It just really is. BMW should build this. Oh wait, they do. Woo. This chassis gets 5 out of 5 stars. I just think that the fact that they gave us a manual here really makes this car worth living with, right? When you get a sports car with a manual, you get that joy of driving and all of that emotional involvement and interaction that makes it worth it. It makes living with all of the other trade-offs that this car has worth it. And what am I talking about? I mean, if you've ever lived with a sports car, you know that getting in and out of it, no matter what your age or how good a shape you're in, you got to crane yourself in and out of it. It's not like jumping into an SUV or something that's more convenient. You have to be careful with it when you drive it around town, going over speed bumps, in and out of driveways. You're constantly vigilant about not screwing it up. And it's expensive. You got to buy tires for this thing. It's maintenance. It's all of this stuff. Face it, when you buy, and it's space. There's no space in here. Face it, when you buy a sports car, there are trade-offs. At least the manual makes its existence worth the trade-off. Yeah, so, I mean, you know, without it, then what do you have? I really wonder what it's going to be like when we have electric sports cars. I mean, I love electric cars. I really do. I love the power, I love the rush, I love all of that, but they're missing the big, visceral, boom-bah drama show that makes a sports car fun to drive. So we'll see how that goes. All right, my friends, just before we get toward the end of our video, did I mention this has a manual transmission? I did, okay. I just wanted to make sure I covered that, because I gotta tell you, that makes the car. Having test driven the previous, other thing, that automatic transmission one, yuck, didn't really care for it all that much. But now that it's got a manual, suddenly I think this is a pretty nice car. Isn't that weird how that works for a car enthusiast? Why didn't they just do it in the first place, damn it? And why doesn't BMW offer us an M Coupe with a manual? They don't, and they probably won't, not for a long time. But that gets us to the competitive and value conversation. Okay, what do you compare this to? Really, there's only one car in the market right now that's in the same price class, that's what this is, and that of course is the new Nissan Z. And in all disclosure, I have yet to see one in person. I have yet to lay my hand on one. I have yet to drive one. I want to, but what I can tell you about this car is it's a BMW through and through with a Toyota suit, and that's a good thing. We used to joke about that. Oh yeah, Toyota just farmed it out to BMW, ick. But the reality is that makes this a really good car. It makes it drive like nothing else, especially with the manual transmission. It's got a lot of good stuff going on. It's got refinement, it's got power, it's got sound, it's got visceral joy that you can't get with an automatic. And I'm really it brings joy to my heart to have spent a week with this car. And so in that way, when I look at quality and all of the spreadsheet stuff that comes into play when I say, here's what a value star score is, the manual transmission isn't on there, but it shows up when I say this is a 5-star value for under $60,000. The BMW is going to cost more if they ever build one. You can bank on it. As far as how that compares with the Z, we're in the same neighborhood, up or down, give or take. So value is at 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, 4.5 stars to the review. Exceptional. So there you go. It would be on my I'd buy it list if the styling spoke to my heart, but it doesn't. I'm saying it's ugly, but that's the thing, it's subjective. Outside of that, I drive it, I shut my eyes, I'd totally buy it. I want this engine and transmission in anything, really. So there you go. Enjoy yourselves out there. See our latest video right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.